News from a Pittsburgh courtroom where a jury has just convicted the man accused of carrying out one of the most deadly anti-Semitic attacks in American history. 11 worshipers were killed at the Tree of Life Synagogue in October of 2018. 6 others were injured in the attack, including 4 responding police officers. Robert Bowers, the shooter, who never denied his role in the attack, could now face the death penalty. NBC News correspondent George Solis joins us live from Pittsburgh, and Oren Siegel is the vice president of the Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism. George, let's start with you. I understand that the counts are now being read. 41 of those 63 counts have read, and so far the suspect has been declared guilty on all of them. Just update us on what's going on inside that courtroom.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ryan. As you mentioned, right now the verdict's still being read. We're going through it count by count, and it does appear that it is so far unanimous across the board, guilty on those counts 1 through 11, obstruction of the free exercise of religious beliefs, counts through to 22 through 22, willfully causing bodily injury or actual perceived religion. Again, these are all of the hate crime portion of this case. There's also the gun-related charges, which he also appears to be found guilty of, and so it looks like, no surprise, as many believe, that during this so-called guilt phase of this trial, he would be found guilty across the board. And mind you, this comes after 11 days of testimony from the prosecution, the defense, the prosecution making the case that the accused shooter, Robert Bowers, went into the Tree of Life Synagogue and meant to kill those 11 worshipers, meant to lay siege there on that fateful day, that he injured those police officers. The prosecution reminding the jury by showing them photos, playing recordings of what went on that day. They also used components of his social media, saying he littered it with anti-Semitic and white supremacist ideology. The defense always trying to raise questions about the intent and his motivation. They made no secrets that Robert Bowers carried out this heinous attack, but they said, and I'm going to quote here from some of the closing arguments, that he had a nonsensical and irrational belief that he had to attack Jews because of their supports for efforts to help immigrants and refugees, people he viewed as invaders. Now, it does appear during deliberations this morning that the jury did have some questions for the judge about some of the intent portion of some of these charges. So it does appear that some of that may have actually infiltrated the jury. But overall, again, as we're looking at this coming in, it does appear that the jury is finding him guilty on all of these counts during the so-called guilt phase. And Brian, one thing that I will say during the rebuttal portion of some of these closing arguments, the prosecution made note that even though they heard the defense, they wanted to make it clear that because Robert Bowers did not go to an immigration camp, did not go to the border, he went to the Tree of Life Synagogue on that day, and he killed those 11 worshipers, fired upon those officers, that they wanted him to be taken at his word, that there was no mistaking that this was carried out with the full intent of harming and murdering those people on that fateful day, Ryan.
You know, George, I think most of us are not necessarily surprised by this verdict, but you've been in Pittsburgh leading up to this day. Was there still a sense of anxiety from some in the community about what the outcome here would be? And is there still a concern about the penalty phase of this case?
Yeah, this has definitely gripped this community. I spoke with members of the congregation just yesterday when deliberation started, and they don't say his name, and that's understandable. They say, for us, he will always be the shooter. And it is hard for them to be in that same courtroom looking at the man they know killed these 11 members of the congregation, but they are there in solidarity to support one another. As far as the death penalty portion of this case, as it moves into the death penalty, assuming all of these counts are going to be guilty, some of them are saying this is the just punishment, that he deserves to die. Others, however, say that perhaps he is best going to be punished by spending the rest of his life in prison. That portion of this trial, the sentencing, is expected to take about 6 weeks. Ryan?
Okay. George Solis, thank you so much. We're now told up to 51 counts where he has been convicted. Oren Siegel now joins us, the vice president of the Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism. So just, Oren, your initial thoughts on this verdict. How does it feel to see the jury convict Mr. Bowers on these charges?
Yeah, there are no happy endings to extremist and hate-motivated mass shootings, but accountability is truly important. And if this is one step in demonstrating that there are consequences for hate, that violence will be dealt with, that the community, the jury, will understand that this does not represent the values of that community or this country, I think it does send an important message.
So talk to me now about the penalty phase. As we heard from George, there is somewhat of a split in the community, a split from the families of the victims as to whether or not the death penalty is the best remedy to this situation. And you're talking about accountability. Is the death penalty something that would demonstrate that accountability to prevent something like this from happening again?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to speak for each member of the community. People have different feelings about the death penalty. You know, some want to see it, others do not. It's really a personal decision and opinion that people have, and we have to respect all of those decisions. I think the larger point, though, is at a time of rising anti-Semitism, where incidents are reported to ADL, for example, every single day, a moment where people can see some sort of accountability, some guilty verdict, even though we don't know the sentencing, I think, again, will hopefully make people feel a little bit better. But at the end of the day, people have to decide what the ultimate consequences are based on their own personal values.
And Oren, just tell me right now your overall feelings about what it's like to be Jewish in America right now. Do you feel things are starting to get better, or is this issue of the rise in anti-Semitism still growing?
Overall, many in the Jewish community continue to feel vulnerable. We're seeing record levels of anti-Semitic incidents reported every single day. That includes vandalism and harassment, and that also includes assault. Whether you're on social media, looking at narratives there where anti-Semitic tropes and other forms of hate are normalized. This is a moment that is a particularly vulnerable one for the Jewish community. That's why when we are revisiting the pain in a community like Pittsburgh all these years later, seeing that somebody is going to be held accountable for what they did offers a little bit of solace. But the reality is, I did not think that 5 years after a shooting in Pittsburgh that we would be seeing record high levels of anti-Semitism. That means there's a lot more work to be done across the country, but there are some hopeful signs.
Okay, Oren Segal, thank you for your insightful comments on this. And we should point out before we go, the jury has just wrapped up and has said that he is guilty on all 63 counts. The jury's been excused guilty on all 63 counts.